Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Darlene and I am the owner and creator of Body Haven Soaps. On this channel, I discuss the products I make, how I make them, I share recipes with you, and any tools that I come up with. I also go over my marketing, my business, all of that kind of stuff. Those are videos to come. So if that interests you, welcome. Hope you enjoy. All right, so today's video is going to be all about candle testing sheets. So there's a lot of sheets out there that I find very complicated and hard to use. So I've designed my own. I will make these sheets available to you for you to use or use as an example to create your own, whatever works for you. And I will put those in the description box below for you to download if that's something that interests you. All right, so when we're designing candles, it's a lot of testing. Test is the general rule. When I decided to add candles to my collection, I've actually done 8 months of testing prior to finding something that I found acceptable that passed all of my expectations. When I make a product or I create something, I want to make sure it's something that I would want to use in my home, something that I would want to spend money on. So I did a lot of testing. So today's video is going to be about the sheets that I've created for myself to verify my candles are safe for people to use, to verify they meet all expectations, hot throw, cold throw, scent, all of that kind of stuff. So let's get into it. So I'm just going to pull up my sheets on the computer here. Is the sheet that I have created that I use for my company and my documentation throughout my testing. At the top here, we'll just go through everything on these sheets. So Body Haven Soaps, that's the name of my company. So I have that there. You'll just put your company name there. Candle name. So whatever it is that I'm making, whether it's 100% soy, non-fragrance, if it's just the first time I'm testing a new wax, or if it is my black raspberry vanilla soy. Okay, I keep track of my batch numbers, so every candle that I make gets assigned a number in the group. So I have a batch system that I use. Burn number, so is it the first burn of the candle, second burn of the candle, third or fourth? I will burn a candle when I'm testing it from the very first burn to the very last burn of that candle. A candle can react completely different in the first burn than it will in the last burn, so I want to make sure that it meets all safety standards from top to bottom. And I'll show you the sheet that I print off to do my second, third, fourth burn. It just all goes through. You can print all sheets off. It's kind of up to you. So date, so I'm going to put in the date, the start time, okay, the end time of the burn, room temperature. Room temperature can change how a candle burns, so I always like to document what room temperature the testing was done in. And I go for your average room temperature is where I try to do all of my testing. Room size, the difference between doing a test in a small room or a large room can make a huge difference on the hot throw. So I always want to know what room size it was that I tested my candle in, just for feedback information. And sometimes I will test the same candle but do it in a small room and then do another test in a large room just to see what the variance is there. Size of container, so was it a 9-ounce vessel, was it a 7-ounce vessel, whatever it is that I was using. Container material, was it glass, tin, what type of material was that vessel made out of. Container supplier, so where did I buy the container from, and I like to put my order number on here just so I can go back if there is a lot of flaws with that vessel, but I've used those vessels before and it was fine. I want to verify the order that it was attached to so I can go back to my supplier, so that's why I do that. Diameter of the container, so was it a 2-inch diameter, 3-inch, 3.5-inch, whatever diameter container I was using. Type of wax, so 100% soy wax, or was it a paraffin wax? what type of wax I was using. I've left these, as you notice, pretty long simply because I can add in extra information when I need to. So if I was doing my own blend, I may say that I used 264 at 75% and then you know, whatever other wax at 25%. So I have enough room to put all that information there if I'm going to do my own wax blend. Type of wick, right? So was it a wooden wick? Type of wick did you use? Size of wick, we're going to put that there. Fragrance scent if you're using one. What fragrance scents, and where it is the fragrance scents, I also want to put down the percentage of fragrance I use. Most waxes or all waxes will have a maximum fragrance load. With that fragrance load, we want to understand that, I mean, there's some fragrances that I use that I would use almost at a full fragrance load for that wax type, or maybe it's a fragrance I don't need to use that full fragrance load. So I document the percentage of fragrance I'm using so that I can make adjustments if that hot throw or cold throw is not right for me. Fragrance oil supplier, so where I got it. Now I always document supplier and batch number simply because the fragrance oils can be completely different. They could be the exact same scent, say that black raspberry vanilla, but be completely different from two different suppliers. So we want to make sure I document, and once again I'll put my order number there. Colored dye, so if I used a dye, most of my candles I don't use dye in, but there is a few that I do, so I want to put my candle dye there. Percentage of dye, so if you're not figuring out percentage of dye for wax, because I mean, it really just depends if you're putting in a small amount just to have a hint of a color or that pastel color, or you're going for a large amount to make a deep color. You could put weight here as well. You could change that to whatever works for you. And then down here is my process for making that candle. So wax melting temp. So how hot did I get the wax to get a complete melt on that? Temp of fragrance oil added. So what temperature did I add the fragrance oil into my wax at? And all of these things can change how a candle performs. So that's why we want to document that. Pouring temp, so what temperature was the wax when I poured it into the vessel? And that should give me the full information about the candle that I'm testing and everything that it allows me to make the adjustments if something isn't quite working with this candle. So the whole idea of testing is to make sure I can go back and adjust things to make that candle a passing candle. Okay, and then when I first light the candle, I will document here the first 5 minutes of burns for the flame. I want to make sure that that flame is safe and that it's behaving properly. So did I have a stable burn for the first 5 minutes of burn? And I'll just document any information there. Height of the flame at the first 5 minutes. So what is the height of that flame? Usually we see a really large flame if the wick's not trimmed proper, but I'm going to document this. And when I come into this part, I will add in like the approximate height of my wick, right? What it was trimmed to. And then that information is just copied down here so that it's all tagged together. And this is where the burn assessment starts to occur. So I burn my candles always for the 4-hour period. So we know that candles, a properly burned candle, you should burn a candle for 3 to 4 hours is kind of that max. So I will do all of my testing for that full 4 hours. For my first burn, another 4 hours for my second burn, 4 hours for my third burn until I get through that candle. So I come back and I take a look at my candle and I make all of my documentations at the first hour of burn, and then I come back again at my second hour, and then I come back and I document at the 4th hour. So I want to see how this candle is behaving through that burn. And I will document the flame height at the first hour, second hour, 4th hour, flame stability, right? So with the flame height, sorry guys, with the flame height, I do not want to see a flame over an inch, but I also don't want to see a flame that is barely there and kind of sputtering because it's drowning in the wax either, right? So this is what I'm documenting here. Flame stability, so Was it flickering, dancing all over the place? Was it a steady flame? What was the stability of my flame at 1 hour, 2 hour, 4 hour? That's when I do my documentation. I also record wick mushrooming. So over a 4 hour burn, you're going to see, you know, minimal mushrooming, but I expect to see that over here. If I have large mushrooming over here, I know that that candle is not going to pass, and I will end my test right here, and I will rebatch and figure it out from there. How to correct that's probably the wrong wick, those types of things. So you're going to have to understand your wicks and waxes and stuff to make these adjustments. But rule of thumb is a wick that's mushrooming over 5 millimeters is an automatic fail for me, but we usually see that over here. But if I've got 5 millimeters here, by the time I get to hour 2 and hour 4, it's never going to pass. The problem with wick mushrooming is simply that the chances of it relighting after being snuffed out, okay, to reignite is really huge. You can have that secondary ignition if parts of the wick fall down into the candle wax. So I'm keeping an eye on that. If it has a slight mushroom on it when I snuff it out at 4, I'm okay with that, because that wick should be trimmed before my next burn, right, to properly burn a candle. So that's kind of how I measured that, but anything over 5 millimeters is a fail. For me, is my candle melted to the edge? So at 1 hour, was it melted to the edges of the vessel? 2 hours. And depending on the candle, I may not see it in the first hour, but I should definitely see it by the second hour. So I'm just documenting that. Depth of the melt pool, and I do this in millimeters, so I'm going to document the depth of the melt pool. In general, you guys, a general guideline, if you don't have to do this in millimeters, but most people use inches. I mean, 1/4 to 1/2 an inch, but I should be seeing that here. I don't want over a 1/4 inch pool here, because then by the time I get here, my melt pool is going to be excessive pooling, right? Which would make it a fail. So I document that here. Any sign of tunneling in my candle where the wick is just burning straight down the center and it's not melting to the edge. Then any sooting, is there excessive sooting, excessive smoking as the candle is burning? Right, I mean, that is a pollutant failure, so we don't want to be seeing that there. So I document that. It should be minimal to nothing in those areas. And then candle vessel temp. So at each intervals of these time checks, I will actually take the temperature of the outside of the vessel of my candle. The reason I do that is because I want to make sure that the outside of that vessel does not reach over 140 Fahrenheit. Anything over 140, you cannot put your hands on that. It becomes an external heat source that can create a fire, so that is going to be a fail. So my candle for that 4-hour burn should never exceed the 140 Fahrenheit. So that's kind of what I'm looking for. If I've got 140 here, I know that up here it's going to be way hotter than 140. Now, this is another reason why I do multiple burns through my candles. Is the first burn that I do is at the very top of the candle, so that vessel is not holding a lot of heat. It's very close to the surface, and the heat can expel out of there. But when I get into that middle burn or the bottom burn, well, now that vessel has the ability to hold in more, so I'm making sure I watch that temp doesn't come above 140 through all of the burns. Okay, right to the bottom of the candle. So that's where that is. And then I just note any excessive pooling, as I said. Now this is where I do my overall scoring of my candles. And I have a score system that I use from 1 to 10. I don't have my score system up on this video. Simply how you would score a candle will be completely different. I mean, how I experience fragrance scent and how you will experience fragrance scent could be completely different. But I try to go for the higher end, so people that have less of a smell scent will actually still have a good experience with my candle. So this is where I document what was the cold throw, and I will grade it on my grading system of 1 to 10. And if you guys are interested in seeing how I do run my grading system for the candles, I can do another video of that. Just comment below if that's something that interests you, and I can show you that grading system on another video. But I do mine on a 1 to 10 scale, and this is a personal preference, so you can go ahead and create your own grading system as well. Hot fragrance throw grade, so I will grade that from a 1 to a 10. Depending on what it is that I am using this candle for, what my expectations are, but generally anything below a 7 here would not be adequate for me, and anything below a 7 here would not be adequate for me. But I prefer, especially with the hot fragrance throw, the cold fragrance throw to me is important simply because I want them to know what the candle smells before they light it, and that's what people are going to be looking for. With the hot fragrance throw, that is to me a crucial element, simply because that is the experience they get while they burn the product that I've given them to be a candle product. So I generally want this to be 8 or higher. Frosting, was there a lot of frosting on the candle? Was the top smooth? Was there any signs of sweating? I also document the cure time of my candles. So sometimes I will do a batch of candles, say 6 candles. I will take 3 candles and do a burn test on them within a week of making those candles. So a week's time, 7 days. And then I will take the other 3 candles from the exact same batch, but I will do a test on them at a 4 or 5 week cure time, just because I like to document, because I'm learning as I go. I want to know how cure time is actually affecting my candles. So that's just something I have just for an information standpoint for myself. Fragrance overload. So was there any signs of fragrance overload where I had seepage of fragrance, things like that? Fragrance is extremely flammable. That's why we have flash points on them. So if I have seepage of fragrance, I don't even test burn that candle. That will be an automatic fail. And it could be that the temperature that could change that, tons of things. So this is important here. And then when I snuff the candle out at the end of the 4 hours, I also document how many seconds there was smoke coming from that wick and glow ember stop time. So I don't want anything over 10 seconds. So there should be no smoking and no glow ember after 10 seconds. The reason we want to make sure that that's not occurring is when we have smoke and embers, anything longer than 10 seconds, somebody can snuff their candle out, walk away from it, and it reignites, and they don't know that it reignites. So I want to make sure it doesn't have the possibility for that reignition. And then once I allow my candle to cool down, I will check the container for any cracks or any flaws in that container to make sure the containers that I have purchased in that lot, they do meet the test. They're not cracking from the heat. There's no flaws in them. So I always inspect that. Self-extinguishing, so this would be an automatic fail. And I mean, it could have been how I trimmed the wick. That's why I measure my wick trim height. But was it a self-extinguishing candle? So it flooded itself and put the candle out. And then total burn time. And I can do a video later on how to calculate the total burn time of your candle. There is a lot of videos out there. A lot of people provide information. Just let me know if that's something that you're interested in the comments below. And then I have my burn score. So after I've done all of this, I have a scoring system. Once again, 1 to 10 is what I use. And I take the information that I gathered up here, and I'm going to score out what my burn score is. Anything below 8 is a fail. And then I do my safety score. And I'm looking for preferably a 10, but anything below 8 is an automatic fail. That is an unsafe candle. So as you can see through all of this, we have all of the information we need, exactly how this candle is performing. And this second sheet here, you guys, the one that we just went over, when I do my second burn, third burn, fourth burn, this is the sheet that I pull out. I only print this sheet, and I will do the test for that second burn. I do a test for the third burn, test for the fourth burn, how many of our burns I'm doing. and then I attach it to my original. So I just keep redoing this second sheet because it's exactly the same candle. I'm just doing my second burn and third burn and stuff. So you don't have to print it out every time, all 3 pages. And this back page, all I have is just comments. So this is all of the information that I want to make sure that I've recorded. And I've got a whole sheet here to document all of the behaviors of the candle, anything that I need to add to this paperwork. Okay, so that's kind of the sheet. I've tried to simplify it and make it as easy as possible for myself. This is what I come up with. As I said, you are free to download this. It is in the description box below. All right, and this, to me, if I can get this to pass, then this would be a passing candle, something I'd be willing to sell. So I always test 3 candles, so I'll print out this for all 3 candles. I want 3 candles out of a batch to pass before I recognize that as a passing candle. Okay, so that is how I do my testing for my candles. It is a lot of testing when you're getting into candles. Once you've got some candles that you've got on the market that have passed this test and you have all of this information and you make them exactly the same, I will make my batches and I will take 1 or 2 candles out of that batch and run a test on it just to verify that that batch is still performing exactly like the test batch that I did. But I don't do a full, 3 candles and right, I just verify that that candle is still effective and that I did make it exactly the same, just to make sure that what I'm selling is a quality product. Then you guys, now this meets standards. As long as your candle can pass this meets standards and you can put it out there in the market. There is another one that I do, and I do this more for my own information's sake. So with this one, I call this my improperly burned candle test sheet. So after I've got 3 candles to pass this, I'm not going to do 3 candles on this one. I'll do 1 candle out of the exact same batch that I had 3 pass in. And I just record the information here, same as before. So I make sure that all the information is here. I'm not going to go through that again. You understand that. And then over here, once again, I go through but I'm going to change how I do the burns. In reality, when we are in the real world and I'm not doing a test burn, I mean, is there times where I've lit a candle and I have full intentions that I know I need to burn that candle for a 3 to 4 hour period, but I get a phone call or I have to run and go do something because something come up and I have to snuff that candle out early? Is there times that you get busy doing stuff and you're not leaving your candle alone, but you forget that it's been burning for 4 hours, so you end up doing a power burn of 5 hours or 8 hours? So this is another sheet that I come up just to add to my testing, because in the real world, stuff like this is going to happen. So I will document all of the exact same stuff. I use the exact same grading system. The only thing that I change is going to be my burn time. So I may do a 1 hour burn and then snuff it out, and then I may do a second 1 hour burn. But I will number which one I'm doing first. So I just put a little number here, 1, 2. I may do an 8 hour burn and then a 1 hour burn, or maybe I do a 5 hour power burn and then an 8 hour power burn. But I can change it. And like I say, I just put a little number here, and I have the space to make all of my comments, and I can document what order I did things in down here. So this is just another one. I will put this sheet down below. It's pretty much exactly the same. I just change how I do my burn so I can see how an improperly burned candle, to make sure that I'm not having vessels that explode or any of that kind of stuff, and that the wick is still going to be, adequate. If I do an 8 hour power burn and once it cools and I trim that wick, it still burns effectively as a good burning candle, that type of stuff. And that's why I have this whole sheet to document all of that information. All right, so hopefully this video you were able to pull some information from, or maybe a better understanding of how to do your candle testing. Maybe you want to create your own testing sheets. Whatever works for you, you could probably add or adjust, change the order these are in. This is just what I've done for myself. So feel free to use that. And if you do use it, just leave a comment in the comment box about how it worked out for you, or any questions or things that you should think should be added to these sheets. We're all constantly learning, so any information or feedback from you can also help me. So feel free to do that. All right, well, thanks for watching, and hopefully you guys got some good information.